Now, Fire and Ice are a pair of characters who are fairly iconic. While maybe underused, they certainly have fans such as myself. But something that's often unknown is that Ice wasn't always Fire's partner. Instead, there was a time period when it was completely somebody else. Now, Ice was originally known as Icemaiden, a name that was also used by another character, and is usually the one thought of as Icemaiden, since Ice isn't really known as that anymore, while Fire used to be known as both Green Fury and Green Flame, the latter which makes more sense to me than Green Fury, but to each their own. Now, for a time, Fire's partner was Sirgid Nansen AKA Icemaiden, which is the name I'm going to be calling Sirgid Nansen, while I'll be calling Tora Ice for this video. Now, Sirgid's first appearance actually isn't from comics canon, but instead Super Friends. You see, the show was popular enough to have a tie-in comic in the 70s, of which Icemaiden appears in issue 9 from 1977, with the Global Guardians. But she wouldn't be brought into main canon for 9 years in 1986 in Infinity Inc. issue 32. Also, fun fact of something that I don't think a lot of people really ever notice is the fact that Fire's first appearance was in 1979, while Ice wouldn't appear until 1988. So for 9 years, Fire operated without Ice. Now, Icemaiden once again was a part of the Global Guardians, and represented Norway. And while yeah, she did come first, her origin would be retconned to be post-Ice's existence, with the reveal coming in the 90s in the JLA comics, that being her father was a scientist who was obsessed with the legend of the Ice People, who of which Ice is a part of. So he would try to recreate that whole power set with his own daughter, and it would work. She would get ice powers. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is a retcon or if they just forgot, but Ice wasn't active until 2 years after Icemaiden. However, in this origin story, it's implied that Ice is already an active superhero, meaning Icemaiden must have come after Ice, not the other way around like it was chronologically. I suppose it's not a retcon without reason, as I do think this is a pretty cool origin story. Sorry, that was a really bad joke, but I had to make it. Now, Icemaiden would also have a connection to Fire on the Global Guardians, where the two were implied to be both best friends or potentially even more than that. But however, once Ice joined the team, she felt inferior to her, being kind of starstruck being around the princess of the Ice People. As well, also feeling unneeded on the team now because, well, they both had the exact same power, but Tora was just better at it than her. So Icemaiden would leave with Crimson Fox to join the JLA, feeling more like she brought more worth to the team, no longer being on the same team as another Ice character. During this time, she would help fight the Second Mist, as well as making an implication where it's implied that she was bisexual, making her one of the first queer characters in DC Comics. She would leave the team off-panel and would appear during the arc where Cersei was getting the help from the world's female villains, with the female heroes helping Wonder Woman fight them. She was present during it, as was practically every female character. But then came something that is just wow. You see, the JSA Comics of 2007 would introduce a small arc surrounding Dr. Midnight looking for a metahuman serial killer, or nearly serial killer. I'll explain. Multiple metahumans have been getting their body parts or limbs just straight up removed by somebody. Like their wings, skin, eyes, etc. Whatever it is that gives them their powers, and this person who is taking them is giving them to regular people to give them powers. Icemaiden is one of those people, and she was skinned alive by the character Endless Winter, who wore that skin to give herself powers. Oh my god. That is just wow. Now, she isn't dead. She's shown to be healing and is even said to maybe make a full recovery one day. However, we never see her again in this continuity, that being pre-New 52. So this is technically the end of the character. And what an ending it is. Oh my god. Now, I will admit, Icemaiden is a character who I think had potential but wasn't necessarily interesting. But this seems like overkill to me. She seems like a pretty harmless character, and to just, do her this way is just wow. Also implies that her powers apparently come from her skin. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I'll go with it. Endless Winter also is killed off a few issues later. And by a few issues later, I mean of a different series, but it's only a few years later. So I suppose she got justice, but still, that is a really gruesome end. Especially because we never see her again. This very much could have been her death. We don't even know what happened. All we know is that she got skinned alive. Also, character named Argus got his eyes removed. This arc went hard. And I will admit, it is a pretty good arc in my opinion, but still, it is really just going for it. What did Icemaiden ever do to deserve this? She wouldn't return for years until Infinite Frontier. Just fine, likely because of all the retcons that had happened up to that point, like Flashpoint and Rebirth. She also had a new design seemingly more warrior-like than Ice Princess looking, which I do personally prefer. It also makes her stand out from Ice because they had some pretty similar designs. Although it was a brief appearance, it does confirm that in current canon, she wasn't skinned alive, which is always a good thing. Now, in all honesty, I will admit, I don't think this character is anything special. There are a lot of Ice characters in comics, especially DC comics. But I did like the whole part where she felt inferior to Ice. I think something there is pretty interesting. Also, there seems to be implications being made that she is slightly jealous of her friendship with Fire, which I do think is also interesting. And the idea of the Global Guardians is just something I personally like, the idea of heroes from all across the globe, because, of course, if there were actual heroes, they aren't all just going to be American. So it is nice to see what else is going on in the world of DC, outside of America. But you don't have to do that with Icemaiden, you could do that with really any character. And I don't think I'm ever going to get over that whole Icemaiden being skinned alive. That was just so wow. Like, everything up to that point was just like standard superhero stuff, and then just bam, skinned alive. Also, the character paved the way for bisexual characters in DC Comics, which is a pretty big achievement. So her character is important to DC history to a degree, but I don't think has to come back necessarily. If she does come back, I'm not going to be upset about it. But if she doesn't, I will admit I probably won't care that much. I do personally think that Tora herself, that being Ice, is a more interesting character. But Icemaiden isn't bad. And that's it. Is the whole her being skinned alive going to give you nightmares too? Because, yeah, I can't get that out of my head anymore. It's just there. Like at the forefront of my mind. Anyways, like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!